In the heart of Nazi Germany, surrounded by pine forests and built on shifting, treacherous sand, stood a fortress designed for one purpose: to be escape-proof. This was Stalag Luft III, the Luftwaffe's prized prison camp, holding the most defiant and resourceful Allied airmen captive. The Germans thought they had engineered the perfect prison. They were wrong. Because in the dead of winter 1944, a breakout was coming. On a single, moonless night, 76 men would achieve the impossible and orchestrate the most daring prison break in history. This is the story of how they did it, and how, for 50 of them, that freedom would last only a matter of days. To really get the miracle of the Great Escape, you first have to understand the prison. Stalag Luft III, near the town of Sagin in modern-day Poland, was a masterpiece of anti-escape design. The Germans had studied every previous breakout from other camps and built this place to counter them all. The entire camp was one big trap. First, the barracks weren't on the ground. Each hut was raised about 2 feet, or 60 centimeters, on concrete stilts. This simple feature meant guards could easily look underneath, making it impossible to start a tunnel from inside a barrack without being spotted immediately. Just like that, the most common escape route was neutralized. Second, the ground itself was a guardian. The camp was built on loose, sandy soil. The top layer was dark and gray, but a few feet down, the sand turned a bright, canary yellow. Any digger would bring up this yellow sand, and there was nowhere to hide it. Dumping it outside was a dead giveaway. Even a few grains on a prisoner's clothes could tip off a guard. The earth itself was basically a surveillance system. Finally, there was the sheer distance. The perimeter fence was a double layer of barbed wire, with armed guards and watchtowers. Any tunnel had to stretch more than 300 feet just to clear the wire. To make it even harder, the Germans buried seismograph microphones along the fence line, listening for the faint sounds of digging. To get around them, a tunnel would have to be an insane 30 feet deep, nearly 9 meters down. This was the challenge facing the Allied airmen of Stalag Luft III. These men, pilots, navigators, and bombardiers from Britain, Canada, America, and other Allied nations weren't just prisoners, they were officers. And for them, escape was more than a wish. It was a sworn duty. Under the Geneva Convention, an officer was obligated to try and escape, to harass the enemy and divert their resources. And one man, who arrived at Stalag Luft III, would turn that duty into an obsession. His name was Squadron Leader Roger Bushell. Roger Bushell wasn't just another POW. A South African-born RAF pilot, he was a brilliant and ruthless organizer who'd been shot down in 1940. He had already escaped twice from German captivity, only to be caught both times. His defiance earned him the nickname Big X. And when he got to Stalag Luft III, he brought a vision that was simply breathtaking. Bushell had zero interest in a small breakout of just a few guys. He saw the potential for something massive. His goal was to launch a mass escape of over 200 men who would pour into the German countryside and cause absolute chaos. It would force the Third Reich to pull thousands of soldiers, police, and Gestapo agents from the front lines for a giant manhunt. It was psychological warfare, a direct blow to German morale. In a secret meeting of the camp's escape committee, Bushell laid out his wild plan. They wouldn't dig one tunnel, they'd dig 3. Codenamed Tom, Dick, and Harry, the logic was all about strategic redundancy. Digging 3 tunnels at once was a colossal undertaking, but it was also an insurance policy. If the Germans found one tunnel, they'd celebrate and stop looking, never suspecting that 2 more were being dug right under their noses. The plan was approved by the camp's senior British officer, Group Captain Herbert Massey, who saw its genius. The X organization, a sophisticated command structure, was officially activated. Under Bushell's command, hundreds of prisoners were organized into departments. There were teams for digging, security, and engineering. Forgers created fake IDs. Tailors turned military uniforms into civilian clothes, and scroungers acquired materials from every corner of the camp. Stalag Luft III was about to become a secret, underground factory whose only product was freedom. The engineering challenge was immense. The tunnels were tiny, just 2 feet square, a claustrophobic crawl space where men worked for hours on end. Every so often, they carved out larger chambers to house vital gear like air pumps. The first problem was stopping the loose sand from collapsing. The solution? Wood. Prisoners began systematically taking apart their own beds. Each bunk was held up by about 20 wooden boards. Men would remove slats, pass them to the carpenters, and then try to sleep on the few that were left. It was a camp-wide sacrifice. By the end, more than 4,000 bedboards had been used to shore up the tunnels. Digging 30 feet down created another life-threatening problem: no oxygen. The air got stale and dangerous, fast. So a team of engineers, led by Canadian pilot Wally Floody, designed a brilliant air pump from bedboards, a hockey stick, and old kit bags. The air hoses were built from Klim milk tins, powdered milk cans from the Red Cross. Prisoners unseamed the tins, fit them together, and created a pipeline that ran the length of the tunnel, pushed by a man working a bellows at the entrance. As the tunnels got longer, moving all that sand became a huge chore. At first, they just pulled a small box on a rope, but it was exhausting. The solution was another marvel of POW ingenuity: a tiny underground railway. The trolley's wheels ran on wooden rails laid on the tunnel floor, allowing one man to haul 4 or 5 times the sand per trip. But the biggest problem was still what to do with all that bright yellow sand. Disposing of it was a full-time job for a team called the Penguins. These men filled long, thin sacks made from socks or towels and hung them inside their trousers. They'd then walk casually around the camp, pulling a hidden string to slowly release a stream of sand from their trouser legs, kicking it into the darker topsoil. It was nerve-wracking work. One mistake could expose the entire operation. While diggers toiled below, another factory was humming on the surface. Forgers, led by Tim Wallen, produced hundreds of fake identity papers and travel permits, even carving official-looking stamps from boot heels. Tailors secretly converted military overcoats into civilian suits. By early 1944, the escape effort had consumed an incredible amount of material: 90 double beds, 3,424 towels, and 1,000 feet of electrical wire for lighting the tunnels. Hundreds of men worked in perfect sync, all while trying to look bored in front of the guards. For months, the work continued. Tom's entrance was under a vaulting horse in the gym. Dick's was in a drainage sump. And Harry, the tunnel that would become their lifeline, started under a stove in Hut 104. Then, in September 1943, disaster. The Germans noticed sand being removed from Tom's hut. They ordered a search and found the tunnel, nearly complete and already reaching the woods. The Germans were thrilled, thinking they'd foiled the escape. They never imagined Dick and Harry existed. The 3-tunnel strategy had worked. After that, Dick was abandoned and used for storage. All efforts shifted to Harry. The digging got more frantic. By March 1944, Harry had stretched an incredible 336 feet clear of the perimeter wire. It was time. The decision to go came on the night of March 24th, 1944. It was a dark, moonless night, perfect for an escape. That evening, 200 men, dressed in their makeshift civilian clothes, with forged papers in hand, gathered in Hut 104. The air was thick with terror and excitement. At the appointed hour, the first man, a Canadian officer named Johnny Marshall, was lowered into the shaft. He crawled the length of the tunnel and pushed open the final trapdoor. That's when he saw it. The fatal flaw. The one miscalculation that changed everything. The tunnel didn't emerge in the woods. It was short. It came up just outside the tree line, dangerously exposed and perilously close to a guard tower. The measurements, made from 30 feet underground, were off. The news was passed back down the tunnel. It was a crushing blow. Their meticulous plan was vulnerable, but there was no going back. Roger Bushell gave the order to proceed. They devised a rope signal system to let the next man know when the coast was clear between guard patrols. The whole process would be agonizingly slow. Instead of 200 men, they'd be lucky to get a fraction of that out before dawn. One by one, they crawled through the darkness and emerged into the freezing night. An air raid suddenly plunged the camp into blackness, causing more delays. A section of the tunnel caved in and had to be repaired on the fly. Despite it all, the men moved with incredible discipline. 76 men made it out. But as the 77th man was emerging, a guard on patrol noticed something odd, a figure crawling from a hole in the ground and dashing for the trees. The alarm was raised. Shots rang out. The Great Escape was over. 4 men were caught almost right away, but 76 were out. For a brief, shining moment, they were free. The discovery of the escape sent shockwaves through the German high command. When Adolf Hitler heard the news, he flew into a rage. The idea that so many men could escape from his escape-proof camp was a deep personal humiliation. His first order was for every single recaptured man to be shot. It was only after Hermann Göring and others argued that this would lead to reprisals against German POWs that Hitler relented, but only slightly. He issued a new, chilling order. More than half the escapees were to be executed. The order went to Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS and all German police, including the Gestapo, to carry out. A Großfahndung, a great national alert, was declared. It triggered one of the largest manhunts in the history of the Third Reich. The 76 men scattered. Some aimed for Switzerland or Sweden, others for the coast. But they were alone in enemy territory, with fake papers and an entire country looking for them. Within days, the net closed. One by one, they were caught at train stations, at roadblocks, on country roads. Most of the 76 were recaptured. And then, the true horror began. The men weren't sent back to POW camps. They were handed over to the Gestapo. Driven to remote locations in small groups, they were murdered in cold blood, typically shot from behind, and told their deaths would be reported as shot while trying to escape. On the morning of April 6, 1944, Group Captain Massey was summoned by the camp commandant, who read from a list. He stated that 47 recaptured airmen had been shot while resisting arrest or trying to escape again. Massey, stunned, knew it was a lie. These were disciplined officers. He pressed the German, asking how many had been wounded. The commandant looked away and confirmed the terrible truth. None. The final number was even worse. In total, 50 of the recaptured men were murdered by the Gestapo. Among them was the mastermind of the entire operation, Roger Bushell. They were killed in blatant violation of the Geneva Convention. This wasn't an act of war. It was systematic, state-sanctioned murder. The tragic irony was that the very success of their escape, the scale of it had sealed their fate. Of the 76 men who broke out of Stalag Luft III, 73 were recaptured. Only 3 made it to freedom. 2 Norwegians, Per Bergsland and Jens Muller, reached neutral Sweden. A Dutchman, Bram van der Stok, made an incredible journey across occupied Europe to Spain. They were the only ones to successfully complete the mission. The news of the 50 murders sent shock and fury through the camp and back to the Allied governments. The brutality of the reprisal had a chilling effect. For the rest of the war, large-scale mass escapes were abandoned. The price of defiance was now too high. But the story didn't end there. After the war, the Royal Air Force launched a special investigation to hunt down the Gestapo agents responsible for the murders. Meticulously, they tracked down the killers. Many were put on trial for war crimes, and a number were convicted and executed. Justice for some was served. The Great Escape has become one of the most famous stories of World War II, immortalized in books and the classic 1963 film starring Steve McQueen. And while the film took some liberties, the true story is even more incredible. It's a story not of a few movie stars, but of a collective of hundreds of men sacrificing their comfort and risking their lives for a shared goal. Decades later, archaeologists returned to the site. They excavated the remains of the tunnels and unearthed stunning artifacts of the prisoners' ingenuity. Remnants of the railway trolley, the Klim tin air pipe, and even a secret radio the men had built to listen to the BBC. The physical evidence confirmed what the stories always said, that deep beneath German soil, a group of captured airmen built an underground world of impossible engineering and unbreakable hope. The Great Escape was both a triumph of the human spirit and a profound tragedy. It's a powerful reminder of the incredible courage and ingenuity that can exist even in the most hopeless situations. The 50 men who were murdered paid the ultimate price for doing their duty, their bravery etched forever into history. Their story shows us that even in the face of absolute tyranny, the will to be free can never truly be extinguished. If you found this story of courage as powerful as we did, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more true stories from history. And let us know in the comments what piece of history you think we should cover next. Thanks for watching.